Hey, everybody, how are we doing? We're looking at Bitcoin breaking out. We're going to have some TA experts. We're going to have some macro experts. We're going to have some people just looking about the geopolitical situation. Does that have anything to do with what we're seeing now? Go ahead. Who do we want to go first? Should we look at the TA?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, yeah, I got the chart. I got the chart up right here. First thing I got, like every one of us, I believe everybody got texts from people. I wasn't looking at my phone. I'm a little superstitious. I was working out for the first time in 6 months. Is this now going to be a thing that I need to work out every day so the market pumps? Well, looking here, this is a 1 hour. Let's look at a more respectable time frame. The same chart I showed this morning on Discover Crypto. Just we weren't really paying attention to this line because we weren't anywhere near it. We were down over here, but we got this massive pump, got resistance right at this level, which is this ties all the way back to January, basically the year beginning bull run, bullish pump back January 2023. Also with support here. This is where we broke down into this current range that we were trading in, but we moonshot up here right to this resistance level. We broke that 32K I was talking about. What happens when we break 32K? Transport up. So how do you guys feel? What are you seeing?
Hey-o.
All right.
Got up. Just so everybody knows.
Cracking the cold water to that one.
Yeah. This is the impromptu thing. We got our yes powder, which gives you energy and keeps you motivated through these charts. But what are you seeing on the charts? Tim, you want to share your chart?
Yeah, I gotta share my screen though, don't I? Let's see here.
On the bottom with the up arrow.
Share now. Yep. See. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, it just nuts. I mean, ultimately, the explosion. If anyone was wondering why did we explode, like I was watching on the chart when we got above 32K and it just went nuts. And then we retraced, and of course I decided, like, hey, let me put the phone down and go spend time with family tonight. And then it just continued to get nuts. You guys can see here volume right here. When we got above 32K right there, you guys can see there's a lot of volume here at that value area high at 30,500. There's still some, but as you kind of creep towards that 32, there's a huge gap. And then where does it start picking volume back up at? Right about 35,000. And of course, 35,000 is a nice round number. There's probably a lot of people who put in sell orders at a clean number rather than a broken one. But you can look, if you go down to like 3 minutes, the 3-minute chart, it did not take long. I was sitting here. I thought once we broke the high from back where we Head and Shoulders gone now, by the way, when we broke that high, I said, all right, watch out for 32.7. Well, guess what? Within 6 minutes after breaking 32.7, we wicked up here to 35 on the dot. And then immediately within the next 6 minutes, fell back down pretty close. And then now we're kind of finding some support. Where? Right there around that 32.7. That 32.7 is coming in because that's the trend line of resistance. If you were to connect the previous two highs in April and then again in July, that's that little area. So we're continuing to just defy odds, really. I mean, I was talking with some people in Discord. There was nothing that charts could have prepared you for this crazy of a rally. Everyone expected it to resist at some point.
So I gotta pause you there. For anybody that's been in the markets just for the last 4 or 5 months, bored out of their mind, you didn't know what we were talking about. Well, you didn't know what we were talking about when we were talking about God candles. This is known as a daily God candle. This is breaking through resistance, no stopping, no levy, no break. Now the question is, do you just jump in, Tim? Do you just jump in and jump on this green candle, or do you wait for a little bit of pullback?
Well, no, you don't. And I want to be a sore subject to everyone's memory. And I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen. So let's start off by saying that. But remember the God candle we got on XRP not that long ago. Again, I'm not predicting an exact same movement where if this God candle, technically speaking, it could very much happen when we go back to where the God candle started. But this XRP just taken off here back in July and then slowly working its way back down. I almost see this as we've had a fantastic weekend. Like, it is Monday, but this weekend was a fantastic, explosive, odd-defying weekend. But what we might have just seen is like the final fireworks, like when you go to like the 4th of July or New Year's show, where it's just really cool. You know, they're going left and right, blue, green, and then the last 10 seconds, they just go ham. And that's what this really felt like. But you're also going to see, while on the 4-hour chart we didn't match, let's go to the hourly chart. There was, I think, when we go to lower time frames, it's not as much, but the volume. Finally, that was a complaint I had, Kelly, this whole time, was the volume. Other than the wick where we had the fake news about the ETF, there really wasn't any volume. Well, we got that here right at the end. And of course, that's mixed with, it's still a big green candle, but that's a big green wick on the top side of it. So I'm not going to say 100% certainty that was the end. We absolutely could keep going, but it definitely had that finale-esque explosion.
Well, I want to share something here.
Situation.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I wasn't expecting it. It's because I wasn't looking for it. But the people who were looking for it, congrats, especially those in the Bit Lab. It was the lack of volume that was ahead of us. You can see, I mean, as Tim was showing that chart, it was, running out of volume. So when there's a lot of volume, you got 100 people with, $100 can kind of move it. But when there's no volume, one person with 10 cents can really move a market. And I think we just seriously experienced that now. Tim, a really good job showing the XRP chart, that God candle right there. I needed that, the bucket of cold water. I needed a bucket of cold water. So I personally, people who feel like they don't have enough Bitcoin right now, I would be waiting on the sidelines. I haven't seen too much macro news besides, China's waking up to the news that we're seeing now. Rumors of BlackRock. Really, I'm looking for, I think it's a lot of short squeezes happening right now. I think we're going to see some very, very large numbers tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to pull up right here. And to that point, everybody that's in the charts right now, if this woke you up from your Bitcoin slumber, if you're feeling a little bored, smash the like button, hit that subscribe button, join us here in the Discover family. I'm going to throw up this, Tim, can you unshare your screen for a moment?
Yeah.
I'm going to
very diverse family, as you can tell, very diverse.
Yeah, this right here, this is what you're talking about DZ and Tim. This is a short squeezes in the last 4 hours. In fact, I think we could probably even bring this down to, is it going to be within the hour? So that's not going to, we just went past 8 o'clock, daily close too, mind you. $128 million in short squeeze. For anybody that doesn't know what that means, okay, yes, we like squeezing, we like hugging, but what does it mean in markets? This means that people had shorts and the price got pushed to a certain point that they were forced to either close to cover their short, or they got fully liquidated. And when you liquidate a short, you have to basically, you're buying into the market. So to close a short, there's longs that have to be basically forced into the market. It's $128 million. That's in excess to whatever buying pressure got us to that level that pushed us over. 22 million in Ethereum. Solana got short squeeze. It was across the board, seeing a lot of short squeezes. Now, will it continue going is a question. Well, we're seeing already some bearish divergences on RSI is kind of flat, but the stochastic bearish divergences. So right now, I feel like it doesn't mean it can't go up, because every one of you, I know, Drew, you've been in the market for some time. Nick, you've been in the market. Tim, you've been in the market. DZ, we've seen the market act irrational. And right now, when everybody's asleep, bored with this, this is when markets start the type of time frames where you might see a bearish divergence and markets still propel higher. Right now, I feel like, hey, we got a huge pump. Right in this exact moment is not time to necessarily buy, but let's see how this sort of shakes out of the next 4 hours, especially into the morning. See if there's a bull flag that prints on the 4 hour. See if there's any sort of signs of continuation, because as it stands right now, we just had a massive candle. We got to let those engines cool off for a second before we get ourselves in too deep. But I'm bullish, baby.
Drew, I'm sure I know you're waiting to jump in. Drew, what is your take? What's going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at that those two spots where we hit 25K right about, and I've been operating on the thesis that was a double bottom. So essentially, last month, I basically tethered up at Bitcoin at 30K, let it ride down to 25, and then went all in on Chainlink. It's gone great. And I still feel like that double bottom is going to hold for Bitcoin at around 25K. For what we're looking right now, I'd expect to get slapped back down to 30K. That's what I'm looking for.
All right, great. I'm so glad you brought up Chainlink. We've been talking about Chainlink a whole lot lately. You know, I did increase my position. I'm almost in the double digits now, folks. But we've talked about Chainlink trading in this channel, and while it was trading in this channel, essentially our thesis was when it goes up to the top of the channel, they sell their Chainlink and they buy Bitcoin, and then when it goes down, they reverse the process. Chainlink just had a huge run up. What do you think? A lot of that Chainlink whale money went towards. My money is on a lot of them was buying a huge amount of Bitcoin. That's part of what we're seeing here.
I was in that group, you know, thinking about taking my Chainlink, putting it back into Bitcoin. And also you just on the Chainlink graph where we're at right now, we might be at that finally at that time frame where Chainlink stops living in that channel it's been in and actually starts climbing up to the $13, $14
guys, we have another breakout, the biggest breakout of the top 100. Pepe has gotten back into the top 100. It is up 30%. I don't know if anyone can pull up a chart. 30% in the past 24 hours. It looks like a Pepe pennant. I don't know, folks. I'm not the TA expert.
65% up. 65% up since October 20th, which that's a pretty large pump if I do say so myself.
Yeah, that's so good to see.
When it goes to more normal coins, we do have Injective is up, Thorchain Stacks is a winner, Mina Protocol is looking good, Filecoin, and then Bitcoin is really leading the charge. But I think we'll see ETH and some of these other alts maybe overperform in the next 36 to 48 hours.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean even Cardano's pumping up a bit, it's up at 20, almost 28 cents. Ethereum, how's Ethereum? I've not looked at that.
It got to 18, got to 1800.
Oh wow.
Okay, so now's going to be the time you want to look at some alts. You want to get in these trading channels right now. You know, I know we have some really good Discords going on in our community where you can see some certain alts are going to have a certain breakout. So when everything goes up 5%, a lot of coins are going to break through resistance, maybe flip that into support, and you might see that 5% turn into a 15%, 25%.
Absolutely. You know, and we did see the digital yuan used for the first time to actually settle an oil transaction today. So, you know, that might be playing into the macro markets, seeing that crypto's here to stay.
Yeah, not only that, and we see Dixie's also, you know, showing a little bit. I don't want to call it a top because the market's been so rational on all different sort of traditional assets and everything, but we do see a bit of a, you know, lower low, lower high. It's basically double bottom right here with these two lows, but this is showing a bit of weakness, which may account for some of that, you know, capital pressure that can come into Bitcoin. I wonder if there's been an update on the global liquidity Bitcoin strategy platform. It's a great platform if anybody's ever looking for this.
Let's check this out. We've had a lot of, you know, talks of China injecting hundreds of billions of dollars over the last few days. I'm interested to see what this looks like.
And one other thing, we have a breaking tweet, not so much breaking from Benjamin Cowan. Tim, I wouldn't mind getting your 2 cents here. It's been a while. I got my microphone in the way. It's been a while since I shared a screen here. Let's see.
Yeah.
All right, share screen, fools. You know what? I'll have to figure. Boomer.
DZ, what is the temperature there in the aquarium where you're at though?
Look, you got to do certain things to swim with the whales. So I'm working my way up right now. Ben Cowan tweeted 1 hour ago, Bitcoin put in a new yearly high today. I know I'm just reading it. Maybe someone else share. I was not that optimistic we would see that this late in this year. Anyways, general direction of dominance higher, ETH, Bitcoin down. But if you want to dunk away. Now, Tim, you're not going to take this as a moment to dunk. But Tim, do you feel any validation looking at just the recent ETH, Bitcoin, you know, pairing?
Yeah, well, yeah. Here, let me share my screen. Let me get to that chart real quick. It's good.
Oh yeah, we gotta show some love to the chat here.
Depends on your original entry point, right?
It depends. Should you buy now or should you buy now and buy back later? Well, I think the broad answer to that is we can't tell you when to buy or sell for sure, but when we're looking at market pumps like this, you never want to take a full shot with your entire position. You don't want to buy throw it all in one buy and take it all out in a sale. So if you are up on a portion of your position right now, there's no harm. Nobody goes broke taking profits. If you take a little bit off the table, keep it in dry powder, maybe Bitcoin runs, you can still have that dry powder to put towards an asset that has not started moving yet. Like Algorand is still falling behind the rest of the pack. I'm not saying buy that, but I'm saying look at those other assets that have not yet had that injection of capital like we just saw in Bitcoin and GRT and AVAX and all these other coins. There was a Filecoin also was a big mover.
Yeah, Filecoin's moving big. Should we sell now, buy back? This is my 2 cents here. Do I think you'll be able to get in, if you sell right now, will you be able to buy Bitcoin $3,000 cheaper? Probably. I would put it at 84%. But do you want to play with that 16%? That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, you definitely play with money. Don't go entire portfolios. Don't even go significant portfolios. I've made that mistake before. It sucks. It sucks when you make that mistake. Going back to the ETH over Bitcoin chart, there's a couple things here. So first of all, even with everything that happened today, all of the chaos, we wicked down, but you can see we're right back up here. We're only down on the ETH over Bitcoin chart, 4%. Not a big deal. The video that we made here a couple days ago that got a lot of mixed reaction from you guys. I want to make sure I clear the air. Ben Cowan is brilliant, and I agree with like 90% of everything he said. There was just 2 things in that one video I disagree with. And what it was, it would really, the main point he made that I disagree with is that we're going to see ETH over Bitcoin come all the way down here to 0.35, way down here. Let me just put a line somewhere in that range. He's predicting an Ethereum over Bitcoin price action to come way down here. And his main reasons was because of this falling wedge pattern right here and because of how distribution phases played out. I'm not going to go back into the video. I'm just going to say I disagree with that. I think that we're getting a lot closer to where ETH over Bitcoin will bottom out, somewhere closer here just south of the 0.05 range. And when you start to pull up indicators here, first of all, so this is Chart Prime. I love using Chart Prime. There's an MVP oscillator that flashes green histograms when it's time to buy. Well, we're seeing those very, very highly. On our trend fusion, money flows keeling over, meaning rounding off. We also got a reversal dot right here. RSI super low. We got bullish divergences, reversals out the wazoo here on daily chart. Same when we come out here towards higher time frames. Weekly chart actually just today flashed an oversold signal. So there's a lot here that makes me think a reversal is coming. Also, we kind of referenced it. Like Bitcoin's made a run. We saw ADA make a run. ADA actually went exactly to where I told people, watch out for 28 cents. There's a dynamic reactor right there. I think it's going to be time for Ethereum to have a little push of its own, whether that means everything comes down and Ethereum just holds steady and gains that pressure back, or if things keep pumping, maybe we see Ethereum take a little bit of a boost there simply because right now fees are low. Ethereum's underpriced compared to these other coins, again, like Chainlink and Bitcoin just running away with it. Even when you come up to Bitcoin dominance, which by the way, DZ, check this out. This is, going to be fun for our little bet, but just running away here, coming back down to the daily chart, we're flashing those same signals we saw on the Ethereum over Bitcoin chart being bullish. We're getting a lot of bearish signals over here on this chart. And we're also wrestling right at, let me go back out to the weekly. We're wrestling right at a trend line that's going to be very interesting to keep our eyes on. Yes, we wicked through it, but there's a trend line of resistance right here. We're also running in again to some resistance calls, not here on the weekly chart, but those look like they're literally fresh, ready to pop off for us. Definitely have bearish divergence because we have lower highs on our oscillators, yet we have higher highs on our price action. But I was wrong about the price of Bitcoin, so I don't want to speak with any type of authority saying like, hey, there's no way Bitcoin doesn't keep going up. But again, when you're looking at volume, when you're looking at a lot of other things, there's just a lot happening here to make you think, hey, I think it's going to be a slow trickle. There was another thing I wanted to show. You guys know that I've compared Bitcoin's current price action to 2019, and there's another time frame in 4-year cycles that are interesting. Let's go back here. 2019, I actually got to go up to this chart real quick. So give me a second. Let me fix this up for you guys. Going back here, very similar time period to this pump right here. Now, the difference is we did not set a new high. So there's a big difference. But in a 2-day span back here on October 5th and 26th, Bitcoin rallied 43% on China FOMO and then crashed even deeper on China FUD. So are we repeating 2019? Or I want to give the bulls out there some hope that maybe wrong one, that maybe that what they're calling is not bad. 30,000, 31,000 could be an interesting spot to keep an eye on, because this goes back to a similar time period in 2015 where we bottomed out here in January of 15. That's similar timeline. But then in August of 15, we double bottomed. But look at what happens in this little rally in October. We push through, set a new high, and notice where we come back and set support. We set support right there amongst those two tops after the bear market bottom. So are we going to see a repeat of 2015 where the Bitcoin price average is shooting up to 35,000? We find that support around 32, the 31,800, but 32, and then we keep moving to the upside? Or will we see a repeat of 2019 where, again, the percentage pump is similar, but this one has us dropping down to lower prices that would still drop us down below 25,000, down towards that 23, 21 and a half. I told people this. There is not a 0% chance, but after pumping through and canceling out this head and shoulders pattern, the chances of dropping below 20,000 in my mind, the probability has decreased. It's not 0%. Nothing's really ever 0%. But whereas before I was kind of leaning towards maybe a 70% chance we were still dropping down towards or below 20, I seriously think that diminishes. I still see a pullback coming. The question is, again, are we talking about 2015 pullback and we come back to 31.8? Are we talking about a 2019 pullback and maybe coming down towards 23, maybe as low as 21.5? But to me, it's about as far as we can get here unless something ridiculously bad happens. But you can't ever predict black swan events. You have to predict probabilities of normal looking movements.
Well, let me ask you a probability, and I want to go around and ask everybody the same question. What is the probability we set in a new low? What is the probability we go below 15,500? Me, I'll go first. I'll say less than 10%. I mean, minus a black swan, which some might say is like a 30% chance happening here. Minus a black swan, under 10%. If everything just goes normal, single-digit percentages for me.
Well, I think 3%. I mean, and I agree with you that, we could see a mushroom cloud change the dynamic of markets for a years on end. But
metaphorically speaking, folks.
Yes, metaphorically speaking. But, in essence, I feel like it's a very low percentage. And, the COVID it was a blessing, and if we do get that chance and it does fall down and give us that entry point, take advantage of that. You know what I mean? It's, well, yeah, we got someone coming on in here.
I have Josh. Hey, Josh. How you
Joshua
doing?
Jake, what's up?
I'm asking Kelly, and then Josh, I want to ask you the same question. Kelly, what percentage do you think that, what odds do you give that Bitcoin will go below 15,000?
I mean, listen, it's a giant green candle right now. We're throwing water on the parade, talking about 15K. I mean, it's under 5%. I mean, I think it's quite small, minus a black swan. I mean, the first number we're looking below us right now is 31.5, 32,000. I see bullishness right now. I think it's going to be chopped sideways, and I'm not looking for a high likelihood at all of a new low.
Josh, what is the likelihood we see a new low? Is this invalidating it in your eyes?
I think I cut out for like 2 seconds right there. Kind of just got off the airplane, so I'm stoked to see that number hit first and foremost. I got off the plane. I was like, nice price target hit instantly at the 34.2. But there's really not a lot of liquidity between the $34,000 range and 40K. So it's kind of either a moment where we're going to see just some pretty large volume, well, not even a lot of volume come into the market this week, but just see prices kind of prop up, or we're going to see some liquidations and some of those longs start to get buried out back by the 31, 32K. So I still have to kind of look at the market here. I got some signals I got to check out, but I'm watching the liquidations right now just because there's not necessarily a ton of volume. But prices, again, that doesn't necessarily mean it can't keep going up. There's not a lot of liquidation above us. So if bears keep being bears and they keep stacking them short positions, hey, there's going to be a short squeeze a little bit higher.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what order book does pick up. Is the order book to the upside going to pick up, or is the order book to the downside going to pick up? Are more people going to put in buy orders at 28, 29, 30, or it's just going to be cascading sell orders, and we have a new wall to battle for the next 90 days, 120 days.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean,
think
the
so.
ultimate,
Still early.
the ultimate bullish case right now is if we pull back and find strong support above 31.8, 32,000, then I think we're going to be really seeing those pre-halving pumps everybody was talking about before, testing up into the upper 38s, maybe in the mid 40s. It feels so weird talking about that right now after, last week we were talking about, man, I hope if we touch 24 again, we're breaking down to 21. Well, this is how fast the market's moving. This is why you have to be adaptable with your analysis and talk to Josh and listen to Drew and talk to Tim, listen to Nick, laugh with DZ. DZ directs us around, make sure that we're paying attention to the news. All this stuff matters. And if you don't adapt, you're going to get eaten alive.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is not 10K.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think new lows, meaning below 15,500. Yeah, I agree with Drew. 3%. I might even go lower, go 2%. What we're even seeing right here, again, I know I'm a chart guy, but just from a psychological standpoint, remember that a lot of this pump is coming off of fake news or more excitement about something to come. And realistically, we're still looking at January for that event to happen. What are we talking about? Bitcoin ETFs being approved. Well, guys, didn't we a month ago know about Bitcoin ETFs most likely being approved? I guess it's new that we have like Kathy Wood and Brian Armstrong saying, oh, it's a done deal at this point. But didn't we all kind of have that feeling back then it was a done deal? We were just waiting on Gary Gensler to finally get his back put up against the wall, and he's going to have to make the decision. Nothing's changed. And so, again, I'm still suspicious of a move to take advantage of a lot of people buying right now. And BlackRock, I probably bought. I think some of these companies bought. But look back at their history just as companies and what they do with investments. They buy at certain times to pump price so that they can take profit and dump the bag on retail investors. And then they lower the price because, realistically, guys, we are not far removed. Again, I don't know if we're even going to drop below it, but we're not that far moved. Back in September on the 9th, we had a lower than $25,000 Bitcoin, right? That was the time to pile up. Why did they wait until we were hovering around 26,500 to start pumping it up? I think it's because there's a grand plan to pump, and then there's a sentence when retail misses the boat on something, you're kind of screwed. Like, just sorry. But when institutions miss the boat on investments they want to make, they bring the boat back. Again, we saw that type of a move with XRP where we pumped the excitement of the retail investor and we saw an 100% increase in one day and then took a period of time. It took us months, like a month and a half, but we literally lost all of it. And in the same way, I'm not going to be surprised to see it be a slow burn over the month of November, but a pullback that kind of crushes the heart of the retail investors who are ready for a real bull market to start. But it's so that those institutions like BlackRock can get the supply that they really want, buy the demand down low. And then when their ETFs launch and we get to having, there's a video we're going to be shooting tomorrow. I think Josh is actually going to shoot it. I'm spoiling this, but we're going to prepare you guys. This Bitcoin bull market might be the most explosive bull market we have seen. Maybe not in the percentage of like the most gains in terms of like 1,000x or 100x. It might only be a 10x, 15x, but the explosion of what people expect in price and what people think could happen might be a lot higher than you think. And that comes with institutions that like to manipulate price action. You have to prepare for it. And so, again, not a sure thing. I don't think we're going lower, but I do think this is a bring the boat back scenario so that they can load up their bags for this explosive bull market.
Well, Tim, you said something that's absolutely true. There's nothing fundamentally that's changed. I will just pop this up here for a moment. This article also popped with a lot of people seeing that there are small steps being made towards the reality of this hope that we've been talking about because everybody thinks that's new in the market, that this Bitcoin spot ETF is something that came on the horizon earlier this year. Grayscale applied for the first spot ETF years ago. Okay. So this is something that's been in the works. And so it's all, BlackRock was out there. Larry Fink was out there talking about it. But now we see something like this. iShares, which is a BlackRock spot ETF application, the company, iShare Bitcoin Trust has been listed on the DTCC. Essentially, they got their ticker. They're making moves. They're getting the foundation set. And as these things happen more and more, the question is going to be, just like you said, Tim, are all these going to be liquidity events where there's going to be basically buying pressure into the breaking of these newses, and then the selling off, basically just taking the liquidity from those of us that, for all of us, have been unprepared before. But that's why we're here on Discover Crypto. That's why we're in BitLab. That's why we got Josh. That's why we got Tim and Easy. We want to make sure everybody watching is prepared.
Let's ask Josh. I want to ask you, Josh, is it Bitcoin miners that you see, or Bitcoin miners dumping any Bitcoin right now as far as what you can see on the markets?
So Bitcoin miners are kind of an interesting, each miner works completely different. And miners right now are in a moment of, I would say, evolution, where they're starting to realize that they can mine a lot of other things as well on top of their Bitcoin, or be data centers, or do things for artificial intelligence. So it really depends on the miner. Miners do traditionally start to sell off when profits increase heavily, and most miners are automatically, as soon as they mine Bitcoin, converting into stables or something. But at this moment, we haven't seen the cascade event from and I haven't checked at charts today, so I could be wrong on the 24 hours. Again, I just got in from travels today, but we haven't seen that momentum just yet. And most of your larger miners, I'd say Marathon, Hut 8, their CEOs have came out and talked about, holding and still being, transitioning their company aspect for better revenues. And that's why you've seen actually a lot of miners outpace Bitcoin's price action in the last year. A lot of them have turned their business decisions and models to be in more profit with other mechanisms. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they need to sell off. What I would point out, though, is hash rates at an all-time high. So there's more miners than ever, which is a bullish catalyst in a couple of different ways. And so especially with the momentum on how miners are transitioning, how we are seeing a lot of companies inside of the United States start to get power credits and push towards subsidiaries and profit in new ways. That's a good outcome. I did want to say to what Tim was just saying there, because it's all this BlackRock talk. Something that kind of, I don't know if you guys feel this way, it susses me out, is Larry Fink coming out and saying Bitcoin is the essence of freedom for humans. I don't know if you guys saw his speech.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. We actually have a Larry Fink video going to be dropping in the next week, where we're going to do a big expose on BlackRock's secret history with Bitcoin. So you guys stay tuned with that. Guys, we are going to look at some key volume levels. But speaking of, backing the truck up, I see the chat. Everyone's feeling good. Everyone's feeling bullish. I'm going to try to present now. Let's see if this works. All right, Boomer DZ. Here he goes. All right, let's see. Oh, God. I got to click things. All right, I want to share the biggest profit maker right now. It's higher than even where we were earlier. It is Pepe. Pepe is currently up 31%. I want to ask you guys, before we get into the key volume levels, do you think there's going to be some serious profit taking in Pepe? Where are they going to take their profits? Are they going into a new meme coin? Meaning, is this going into SHIB and Doge? Or are they going to put it back into Bitcoin? Although it's a little odd. Or third final choice here, are they just going to put it back into ETH? And that's what I'm thinking. What do you guys think?
I think it's to be a split basket. I think Pepe initially was very, very, obviously it was new. It was very meme centric, but it actually has built quite a surprisingly large community surrounding it. And a bunch of different players are involved with it now as well. So I do think it's going to be kind of a mixed basket of how that liquidity gets spread around when profits do get taken. I just hope that people don't buy the top hoping it's going to go up another 30 or 50%, because that's usually when you get wrecked.
Absolutely.
All right, mixed basket, maybe too hard to tell. Tim, what are some of the other guys saying? Drew, Josh.
I mean, I think that it's going into Bitcoin. I think when I look at the last bull market chart, I mean, what I was watching in my trading thesis, Chainlink had an absolute rip, then it came back down, and Bitcoin really absorbed a lot of that profit last cycle. So that's kind of my thesis. I think that it's more so going to go back into Bitcoin. This whole BlackRock, Larry Fink, spot Bitcoin ETF, man, like, I think that we're still capable of hitting $5 trillion market cap in 2025 without any of this extra awesome sauce, like the Bitcoin spot ETF, all these other things that are right on the edge. I still feel like even without any of that happening, I still feel like we hit $5 trillion.
All right. I was seeing if anyone's going to say, I think they're going into a meme coin, and I think it's this one. What do you say, Josh?
Are you able to pull up the ETH versus Bitcoin chart? Because if we actually pulled it up, we'd be able to probably see it in real time.
Tim, do you mind?
Yeah,
we were looking at that earlier.
You gotta unshare your screen though, DZ.
Ah, gotcha. Figuring it out, folks. I'm figuring it out. Look, I'm underwater. All right. There's a lot of pressure, not just from Bitcoin, okay, from the water as well.
Still
While he's
bleeding.
pulling that chart up, everybody hit that like button, going live on a moment's notice. You got Drew in the backyard with the night vision goggles and the helmet.
Yeah.
On brand.
You know,
On brand.
I just,
Yeah.
I half expect a predator, like from the movie, to walk behind you.
yeah.
Now,
I hear
Drew,
my dog
do
creeping
you
on me.
use that helmet when you're collecting those eggs from the chickens?
Yeah,
You might need the
Check you
helmet
out.
for that.
So,
He's got to keep the coyotes
right
out.
now, yeah, they're getting out of hand, basically. They're taking over my neighborhood, so I'm having to be extra nice to my neighbors. I'm moving dirt for them, for asking nothing, no money. Just I'm sorry for my chickens. So
Yeah, well, so what I was going to say on the ETH Bitcoin chart right here is we're watching in real time kind of altcoins. They're not necessarily bleeding. They're going to continue to move with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the majority of trading pairs on a lot of exchanges. So as Bitcoin pumps, you're traditionally going to see a lot of your altcoins follow that. In the sense of Pepe, I think Pepe right now, I didn't look at Twitter, but there might have been a really big influencer that decided to get pretty excited today. But ultimately, I think Pepe and these meme coins, you ultimately always see them start moving with one another. So whether or not Shiba is going to be pumping next week or the Doge community starts coming back. But what we can see in real time is that Bitcoin's dominance, it's really sparking this move. It's absorbing a lot more of the liquidity coming into this market. And so I'm sure you guys were talking at the beginning of this live about all the spot ETF and all the hype coming into this. But it does look like whether or not institutional buyers are buying on the back end or if it's just straight FOMO from retailer, we are watching a lot of that liquidity be absorbed by Bitcoin's market.
Yeah. No.
Now, Tim, one quick thing: is it possible for us to look at some of these next in like levels? If it does go to the upside, what is that point of control? And if it does go to the downside, where does it look like we're likely to retest?
For Bitcoin, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
well, people do want to know how many zeros Pepe's going to have, but yeah, let's look at Bitcoin.
Yeah. So the first thing, there's a couple different levels. Let's start by doing. Make sure I'm on linear. Let's start by doing some Fibonacci. Fibonacci from the high, the bull market high, down to what is the bear market low. The first one that's going to pop up here is one I had labeled. I thought I was going to get back here in July. We ended up falling short at 30,000, but 36K is going to be very interesting. That's the 0.382 level. When you pull up and you kind of mix the fixed range volume profile, you're also going to find, remember that volume gap that we talked about earlier, that there's a little bit of a gap right there, kind of get a little bit of volume at 35. Well, you kind of reach a peak or a head right there at about 36. After that, there's another peak coming in here around 38,800. Definitely going to be very interesting. And then I tell people this all the time. A lot of people love to pay attention to the peaks of fixed range volume profile. But if you go back and look at some of the strongest levels of support, like this $25,000 level, right? That came right here in a gap. And the best way to kind of think about this when you're looking at fixed range volume profile, imagine a car driving through mountains. If you run down a hill, it's really easy to run down the hill. But when you hit that gap and it's time to now go uphill, of course, it's going to be hard. You got to step on the gas again. Well, that's what happens in these gaps. So just as important as peaks are to keep an eye on for where there's a high amount of volume, you also want to look at the areas where there's a very small amount of volume. And the next gap, yes, we have a peak at 38.8, but the next gap's going to be coming in right here, right above 40,000 at 40,200. A little higher than that, around 42.5. We're going to get to that 0.5 range. And then, keep pushing. We got golden pocket up here towards that $50,000 mark at the top of that golden pocket. I think you're asking for a lot to get there anytime soon, but those are going to be some pretty significant mile markers when you're looking at larger time frames. Of course, you could probably get into the nooks and crannies and find little places in between there that you're going to find support and resistance, just like we have back here throughout the gaps between 25,000 and 32. But ultimately, when you're looking at big ones, I'm gonna start with my Fibonacci levels and then my valleys of the fixed range volume profile. So to me, 36K is gonna be very interesting. 40K is gonna be very interesting. 42.5 is gonna be very interesting, and then you got 45.5 and then 50,000. Those are my spots, the big ones I'm looking at.
I just want to say I really agree with especially where that Fibonacci is. For anybody that's wondering when you're using a tool like that, it lines up that 382 lines up right at the bottom over there, all the way to the left, right near where the volume profile is, where all that price memory is, all that chop. Think of that like a dam or like a levee you're building when there's flooding. That ends up being a large barrier when price starts moving back up. There's going to be a lot of liquidity interest when price starts reaching those levels again. So that 36 to 40K will be an interesting region to see if we just go up there and just have a wick up there and immediately push back down, or if we're able to actually, basically push up there, hold somewhere in that region, and then slowly work our way up. But if we continue this godlike candle stuff for 2 or 3 days in a row, it's time to really be interested in looking at what your sort of risk approach is going to be, because candles don't do God green candles forever. There will be a sharp fall just almost as fast as you'll have that sharp rise. So I'm hoping that we do get a day or two to cool off in this region rather than continue going. So we do have health. We want that stair step so we don't jump up and fall right back down.
But we have some catalysts that might play good for us. I wanted to ask Josh this. We've heard some whispers about the stock market finally looking like it might be trying to decouple from crypto and Bitcoin particularly. We had Bill Ackman coming out basically just very bearish on treasuries, looking at a bounce off of that 5% level that treasuries came up to, just kind of signaling some major problems in the plumbing of the macroeconomic system. So do you think that we're at that potential moment that we're seeing where, Bitcoin is actually moving the opposite direction the standard markets are?
Yeah, so there's some interesting outlooks to this. One is going to be Bitcoin kind of trading as a commodity. Now, when I'm talking about Bitcoin, it's specifically Bitcoin, and then the altcoins are a completely different market. Bitcoin, since 2020, has fundamentally traded with a lot of commodities. It's why Gary Gensler and a lot of your politicians look at it, or your regulatory enforcers look at it as a commodity and have said so in different lawsuits, etc. But for that reason, since 2020, Bitcoin's traded and correlated pretty closely to oil, copper, silver, and gold. Where we're at right now in terms of treasuries, I do believe we're starting to transition, and we'll kind of transition into more of a commodities-based market, and that could be very bullish for crypto as a whole, because that's going to really depend on all of the geopolitical tensions and international relations that are taking place today. And I mean, I think everybody in this call knows how many things are happening on a global scale. If you just go on Twitter for 2 seconds, it's literally a war scene. So in the sense of like where treasuries are heading right now, I actually think the 30-year and the 20-year and even the 10 can creep higher. It really is going to be dependent on if inflation is a little bit stickier than expected for the Feds. Their one goal is to bring inflation down to 2%. If that means we get another 25 basis point rate hike, whether it's again in November or one later next year, I still expect that inflation to be a little bit stickier for a longer period of time, which is why when we see a pump like this, and Kelly was talking about these God candles, you don't traditionally see these. It's not up only forever. This is not how the utility in crypto works. It's not number go up, right? There's a lot that needs to happen in the space. And so, from that outlook, everybody's on cloud 9 right now. You have all these bears flipping bullish. You have, the influencers that haven't spoken in 12 months coming back out being like, yo, market's alive. We can very well next week see the SEC just delay these ETF announcements again by another 30 days, another 45 days, or maybe they got another trick up their sleeve we don't see yet. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but the last thing I'd be doing right now is shorten for Bitcoin to go to 10K. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because most people thought, well, when is this going to happen? When is the ETFs? Well, January, March, it doesn't seem likely this year. But now, all of a sudden, if we were told, oh, it's delayed till March, we would take it as just this enormous shock to our system. It would be the most bearish thing we could ever hear. And then the market would overcorrect to the downside. So just a little bit of a perspective there. And I'm glad you brought up the point. It's just not up and to the right. We've all seen the meme where it has, 2 paths. And what do they think it was like? And it's like just the cheerful path where you just, ride your tricycle with some daisies. But what it was really like, and it's just valleys and dips and fire-breathing dragons trying to steal your gold coins, and then at the end, you're battle scarred, you're tested, you're numb, you're basically the character at the beginning of Saving Private Ryan holding his arm, and you're just like, Bitcoin moved up 10% today, and you just kind of look at the camera. Okay,
so let me ask you all
at this point.
Yeah. So let me ask you, DZ, because this is one of those things that everybody that's involved with Bitcoin, especially, is waiting for, and we're never going to know really that it's happened until some substantial time after it's happened, because we have these fleeting moments where we have decoupling from the traditional asset space, and we want to think of Bitcoin as a digital gold, and we have to remember it doesn't mean it is. We want to think of it as a hedge against inflation. We want to think of it as a hedge against traditional assets. All these different wonderful, somewhat lofty ideas, but it can happen, and maybe it will. Maybe we are in process of it. So, DZ, do you think that we are in the midst of starting that sort of conversion psychologically of markets to have that flight from this risk category to truly a commodity, as well as a flight to safety?
I don't think we're there yet, and I think the main catalyst isn't going to be. Everyone thinks like, oh yeah, when I go to Thanksgiving, there will be this one day in the future. Everybody has their head wrapped around inflation, and we all are kind of guilty of it. You know, if you say, you know, you're probably guilty of it yourself watching at home right now. You're like, dang it, I do think that. And now that I've said it out loud, you can't unsee it. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry, you know, to pop your balloon here. So here's how it's going to happen. I'm going to give you the good news. You're going to see the finance guy on Fox Business News or MSNBC, and they're going to say, yeah, I think Bitcoin's good for like 5% of a hedge fund. That's really all it's going to be. We're really not going to exceed past that as far as the lofty ideals. It's going to say it's going to slowly creep up to gold in these hedge funds and these family offices and, you know, these BlackRock and these other large institutions. It'll reach gold. You know, at one point we'll be half of gold and, you know, in all the hedge funds. Then we'll reach gold. And I do believe, and I think everyone at home, I think we'll exceed gold one day. I think that's about as high as it gets. You know, I don't think we're going to see $1 million Bitcoin anytime soon, but that is still huge. That is still fantastic. And I think we're really, really close to Larry Fink popping up and saying, I think 5% exposure to Bitcoin is good. We're not there yet. They could do a full court press in the next 30 days, though. I have a sneaking feeling it'll be closer to the top of the bull run. So as they're saying 5% is good, 5% is good, they're dumping on you. It'll just be about 16 months from now.
Yeah, you could look at gold's ETF with that in November of 2000. They've done this before. This is not, you know, the asset manager's first game for manipulating markets. And so I like to remind people of that as well, is like when you pull up that gold chart from 2004 with that ETF in November, gold was at like a $3-4 trillion market cap, and it dipped by 10-15%. That's hundreds of billions of dollars that exited afterwards.
Here's a great question. How many cycles to surpass gold market cap? What are we, a factor of 10 away or no?
Yeah, we're at 1 trillion. Well,
no.
The whole market cap right now.
All right, let's see.
It's somewhere in the 11.
Gold market cap 13 trillion.
Yeah.
So what? Bitcoin's half, right?
Yeah.
Market cap's right around a little more than 65% of a trillion. So we're looking at close to not quite a 25x, about a 20x. So right now, Bitcoin this is rough back of the napkin math. Don't type in. It's actually 21.3. It's around 20x. Like I said, you know, we initially want to try to get to half of gold. We're not even at 1/20th, folks. Like we're at 5%. So 50% is still, you know, a ways away. Maybe we hit 20-25% this bull run though.
Yeah. Well, hey, DZ, I'm getting word from the boss man. We need to wrap it up here. No, not that boss man, an actual boss man. We're wrapping up here as we close out though. First of all, 9 o'clock here in literally 7 minutes. We have a video coming out. DZ shot a video. We of course talked a lot about it here, but definitely check out that video coming in 7 minutes. Josh is going to be in studio tomorrow with DZ hosting the show. Nick and Josh, any last thoughts as we close up for tonight? And we'll go get some rest and have a killer show in the morning. What are your thoughts as we close out this video?
Breathe and don't FOMO, you know, adjust to the market. Just, you guys have been through this before. The emotions are going to play with you, and Twitter is going to go crazy, but just breathe, wait it out. There's still a lot happening in these markets. And if you didn't buy, you know, since the FTX fiasco, you know, you can hold off for another 24 hours. So just breathe, let it go. We'll be getting some great content out here this week. I'm excited to host a show with you guys tomorrow, so it'll be a fun time.
Kelly, you turned into a raptor for a second. I don't know what that was.
I thought that was just me.
My message is don't sell your Bitcoin to BlackRock unless it's at the top of the wick and you buy back in a short amount of time. That's all I have.
All right. Man, this is exciting. We got to do this. We're probably going to have to do emergency meetings all the time when things go crazy. So this is awesome.
I looked at my fiance and said, this is going to happen like 20 times in the next 12 months.
Yeah, it's beginning, man. This is it.
You had to turn off Property Brothers and hop in the charts, right? And
right,
it's
well,
fun talking with you guys. Everybody out there, hit that like button, hit that
Yeah.
subscribe button, check in with us in the morning, watch that video at 9 o'clock. We're happy to be here
All
with
right.
you.
Later, guys.